What is going on out there, everybody? We're here. We did it. All the videos, all the Instagram posts, all that stuff. Guess what? We are here. The debut episode of the All Around Sports Podcast with your host, Jim McAllister. From the bottom of my heart, I can't thank all of you guys enough for joining me on this journey of just fun. You know, we're gonna have so much fun doing this podcast together. And we're going to be doing interviews with radio hosts, professional athletes. We're going to be talking to friends of mine, co-hosts. We're going to be doing so many different things here that I can't wait to share all the fun things we have planned, all the exciting news I get to share within the coming weeks and months, and just really just have fun. You know, this is what this has been all about, is just having fun and being able to kind of talk sports, something that I love deeply, and share that experience with all of you. And to me, that is something that I can never, ever take for granted. But I want to talk about how this all came to be. How did this start? Where did we get to here? So honestly, it all started with an idea. And my wife, Melissa, who you will hear about all the time, because she's the woman that if it wasn't for her, none of this would have been possible. I would not be the person that I am right now, and I would never, ever have gotten to this point where I am without my beautiful wife, Melissa. And she's the reason that I breathe, and she's the reason that I do the things that I do for her and our children. And I can't thank her enough for supporting me and being there for me at the times where I needed her the most. So for that, I can't, there are no words, and I love you. And it's an unbelievable feeling to be married to you every single day. I think we were sitting at the kitchen table when we were talking, and we were just, having just casual conversations like we have, just, laughing, joking, doing the things that we do. And she had brought up something that I never thought of. And she goes to me, listen, I know how much you love sports. I know how much you enjoy being a coach and talking about it. I see how you interact with everybody. Do you ever think about doing a podcast? And I kind of paused and I was like, no, I never thought about doing a podcast because, at my point in my life now, I'm thinking more just let me, continue doing what I'm doing, taking care of the family. And I'm thankful because my wife is amazing and doing all the things that we do together as a unit, and we make it work. And it's a great feeling. So she says to me, she goes, why wouldn't you do a podcast? Why wouldn't you, talk about the things you want to talk about and kind of use that platform to really try to connect with a broader audience? And I thought about it for a while, and the more I thought about it, the more this whole thing started to take shape. Then, you start with your business plan. You start with how are you going to put it together? What's the name of the show? How's it going to look? How's it going to feel? What are you trying to accomplish with this program? And weeks and months later, have things started to evolve and evolve and evolve. I wanted to take the approach of kind of a baby step approach where this was going to be something that we can kind of evolve together and enjoy and really kind of make it a lot of fun. And that's where we are right now. We're going to talk about, and I know I've said this ad nauseum, but I'm going to say it one more time, professional sports, college sports, high school sports, youth sports. It's going to be a big youth sports component here. There's going to be some guests lined up in the youth sports community that we're going to talk about quite a bit, because I have young children that are involved that do youth sports and play different sports, and how that all kind of goes about, how there's a parent interaction, how the coaches interact with the kids, how this all kind of plays in together. Also, I'm going to have my nephew, Nicholas. He's going to be on our show as well. We're going to be talking a lot of New York, Philly stuff. We're going to be talking a lot of things during the football season. Plus, we're going to pop in from time to time just to have some takes on different things that we kind of see in the sports world. That's going to be a lot of fun. Jerry Recco is our first guest. I mean, he was gracious enough to join me and interview him for close to 35 minutes, and it was awesome. And I can't wait to share that with the world. It was such a great time to speak to him and really, he was so appreciative and so thankful and so like great with me. And I was shocked because, I'm just starting. I mean, I'm just a guy that, wanted to do something, and I, kind of just cold emailed him, and he quickly responded to me. And it was just something that I can't, I'm just so grateful. I'm so at a loss for words, and just so grateful that, this has all kind of come together, that this idea that we had sitting at a kitchen table is now in fruition. But also, I want to talk about something that's important to me, and something that I want to kind of make very clear at the very beginning: gambling. Now, I went back and forth on this for, about a week, about if I was going to talk about gambling, and if so, how was I going to talk about it? The more I thought about it, the more I'm going to not talk about gambling. I know how gambling's kind of almost taken over the sports world, and I understand how big of a business it is. And I'm going to be honest, I was a proponent for this whole thing because there's an avenue of, hopefully, maybe with the states kind of regulating it, they can do some good with the money that they're bringing in to kind of help, build bridges, roads, tunnels, use whatever it is, pay police officers, firefighters, all state government workers more than what they just, what they're getting right now because of how they protect us in our everyday life. There's good to it. And I got to be honest, I gamble, but I'm not one of these, crazy gamblers that's betting ridiculous amounts of money. I always tease my friends and my family. I always say to everybody, I'm the greatest $2 bettor you ever met in your life, because I'm not going to bet any more than, say, $2. But that's me, and I enjoy it. So I need to be honest with you guys about that. But the reason why I bring this up is because this program is going to be geared to everybody. So that means men, women, and children, especially children. And if children listen to the show, I do not want to advocate gambling and then cause a child to go down a road that maybe they can't recover from. And that's important to me. So I made a conscious decision to say, you know what? I understand that it's a big business, but we are not going to talk gambling on this show. We're just not. We're not going to do it. We'll talk about fantasy football, and I understand there's a gambling component to that, but you can also play fantasy football for fun. My 14 and 8-year-old son and my 16-year-old nephew all play fantasy football, but they don't do it for money. They just do it because they enjoy it. So we'll talk about fantasy football and how that is going to, be part of our show. Nick and I are going to do a segment on fantasy football come the football season. So yeah, gambling, the hardcore gambling, we're not going to talk about. So, I want to just, again, put that out there to the audience just to kind of set that tone right away. So without further ado, we're going to talk to Jerry Recco. But I have great news to announce. We have sponsors on the show, believe it or not. Yes, the first episode, we have 2 sponsors on the show. So let me talk about them real quick, okay? So the first sponsor of our show is Jump Shot Gym, okay? Jump Shot Gym, a one-of-a-kind basketball training facility located in Hillsborough, New Jersey. It has 8 hoops and the Dr. Dish shooting machines. Get the reps that you need to build a consistent shot. Visit jumpshotgym.com. I'm going to say it one more time. Jumpshotgym.com for details on information on shooting clinics, camps, and parties. Okay. Again, jumpshotgym.com. Please check them out over there. They're great people. I've toured the facility. My kids actually have used the machines. It is fantastic. So please, jumpshotgym.com. Also, we are sponsored by Brazina Home Improvements, okay? Brazina Home Improvements. Looking for any general contractor or repair need, contact Brazina Home Improvements at 609-581-5848 for a free estimate on any contracting or repairs you're looking to do for your home and business. Okay, that number again, 609-581-5848. Again, contact Brazina Home Improvements, 609-581-5848. And without further ado, guys, we're going to talk to Jerry Recco. All right, guys, we're back here on the All Around, and my very first guest is a man that has been gracious enough to give me his time and really took a chance on me when he didn't really know who I was. And honestly, I can't thank him enough for it. He is the warm-up show host with Alan Jerry, 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. on WFAN, Monday through Friday. He is the co-host and update anchor on the Boomer and Geo show, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. I'm sorry, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Monday through Friday on WFAN. He is the pre and post game host for Dallas Cowboys Football on the Compass Media Networks. He is the play-by-play voice on WCBS for Rutgers Men's College Basketball. Ladies and gentlemen, the great Jerry Recco. Jerry, I can't thank you enough. Thank you.
Well, that was a nice introduction, James. My pleasure. And one correction: fill-in host Boomer and Geo.
Come on, dude. You are just as part of that show as anybody else. And I'll tell you, the stuff that you do, the wit and everything, and the dynamic that you guys all have is something to me I absolutely love. I love it. I mean, just hearing you guys all kind of, you can tell there's that family with you guys, you know?
Well, we spend more time with each other than we do our families, so it makes sense, and we have a good time. I mean, it's pretty simple when we go in. I think the hardest part of our job is just getting there, but once you're there, I mean, what are we getting paid for, really? So it works. It started with Craig. It's gone great with Geo, and it's been for Boomer. It's now 17 years.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, 17 for Boomer. I think I'm at 15. Al's the entire time. Eddie's 16, and G the last 7. So it's been really good.
I got a funny Boomer story for you. Okay, so I've only been to 2 football games in my life in person at the old Giants Stadium, and Boomer was actually involved in both of them. So the first game I ever went to was 1995. I went to see the Jets and the Buffalo Bills. Okay, it was a game where I'll never forget this. Boomer throws a touchdown pass late. Okay, it was 28-26, and then they had to get the 2-point conversion to tie the game. He throws a swing pass to Adrian Morrell. Adrian Morrell drops the ball.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. And then the following year, so I'm a Giants fan. The following year, I go see the Giants for the very first time. My uncle, who just passed away about a year ago, was a season ticket holder for almost 35 years. Okay, so he took me to a game. It was the Giants and the Arizona Cardinals. So it was the old Dave Brown versus Kent Graham game. Okay. Graham ends up getting hurt. And who comes in? Boomer. You can't make it up.
Yeah. Was Adrian Morrell on that team too?
He might have been. I don't remember, to be honest with
you. He might have been. It's possible.
Yeah, it's just, it's so crazy how it all kind of ties together.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about you. You are a St. John Vianney grad, okay? How was just growing up and just kind of being involved? What was your first recollection, really, of just like being a sports fan?
Oh boy, my first memory of being a sports fan is the 49ers beating the Cowboys in the championship game, the Dwight Clark game. It was either that or it was Fernando Valenzuela and the Dodgers beating the Mets at Shea Stadium on a Friday night that my aunt and uncle took me to, which was the first live baseball game that I ever saw. So those would be my earliest memories of watching games or sports, right around that early 1980s time. I really don't remember too much in the 70s at all as a kid. So you're talking 80, 81, 82, right around that time. Hockey was always big in my dad was a huge Ranger fan, but his company had season tickets to the Rangers and the Devils. So we went to, my God, when we 50-50, we would go. So I grew up a very confused hockey fan. I just loved the game. And was kind of a Devils Rangers guy, not really a fan, but I just loved the game. And as I got older, I kind of sided with the Devils because that's where the direction my kids went in. And then with basketball, I never actually saw a live basketball event until I saw the Knicks at the Garden when I was probably like 12-ish. And then after that, we started going to Nets games nonstop. And that's how I became a Net fan. So those 4 sports is kind of how it happened.
It's crazy because like I'm a Knicks fan, but I think I've been to more New Jersey Nets games than anything in my life. And even one of my fondest sports memories was 2002. I went to see the Indiana Pacers and the Nets. It was game 5 of the first round. Remember the double overtime game where Reggie?
Yeah, I was there with Joe Beningo. I remember it like it was yesterday.
My gosh. You know, I wanted to get to Joe as well because he's got to be a character to be around.
He's a character, always has been, but he's who he is, and you love it.
But that's the beauty of Joe. The beauty of Joe is that he's just authentic, and he's the guy you want to be around and just talk whatever it is you want to talk about.
Yeah, what you see is what you get with Joe. But that night, he was not a Net fan. I mean, Joe's always been a huge Nick, Jet, Met,
Yeah.
Ranger fan. So we went to, because that was the whole kid,
Yes.
Jefferson, Kenyon Martin, Kerry Kittles, Todd McCullough was on that
Yeah.
team. I mean, you go down
Absolutely.
Lucius Harris. And so yeah, and at the time, Joe didn't live far from the Meadowlands, so I was I his producer? I might have been anchoring with him. I don't even remember. I might have been anchoring with him. It all blends now, but
Yeah.
I was with him, working with him at that time, and we probably went to, my God, that season, out of the 41 net home games, we probably went to 20 of them, and on top of that, we went to all the home playoff games. And he, while not a net fan, got into that team because the style that they played, and Jason Kidd was phenomenal to watch. But I remember he had the show that night at 1 a.m.
Right.
and I was with him, and we're sitting there, and we go to overtime, and I'm thinking, Joe, like, we're gonna be late, like we got to get to work.
Right.
Like, this is all well and good, we're here, and then obviously they won in the double overtime in that fifth game. But that was a hell of a series.
Unbelievable. I mean, that was a team to me. Listen, they ran into a Laker team that was just unstoppable. There was
I
nothing
had no
they could do
chance.
about that. Yeah, but I mean, those two net teams, those 2 years they went to the finals, don't get enough credit around here for as good as they really were, especially with Jason Kidd. Jason Kidd to me is the prototypical point guard. You know what I mean? He can do everything on the court. He's got a great basketball IQ, and he doesn't, for me anyway, for my opinion, he doesn't get enough credit for how good he really was.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And if you remember, when the Nets made the trade for him, he went on with Mike and the Mad Dog the first day or two of being in net. And they asked him his goal, and his goal was 41 and 41. We'll start there. And they almost laughed him off the show because the Nets were a laughing stock.
Yeah,
And 41 and 41 turned into 50 wins multiple years in a row, and back to back conference championships. And that one with the Spurs, man, they had a chance to win
yes,
that
they did.
series. You know, they really had an opportunity. They didn't, obviously, in the end, but you're right. They were really good teams back then. And then, the different variation of when Vince Carter became a
Yes,
net was interesting. I didn't love it. I didn't think the fit was right. They were still
I
very
agree with
good,
you. I
but
didn't
they
like the
weren't
Alonzo Mourning
championship
thing either, to be
caliber.
honest with you. I didn't think that fit was right either.
Which one?
The Alonzo Mourning one. I didn't like that at all when he was there.
Yeah, the problem with that is it was necessary to keep Kidd. If you remember, Kidd was becoming a free agent, and I
Yes.
remember Rod Thorne. They threw like a party at the Meadowlands when he re-signed. But one of the reasons he re-signed, if memory serves me right, was he wanted Mourning on this team as another big, and it was kind of part of the deal. I was fine with it; made sense to me. But then Mourning was sick, had the kidney issue.
Yeah.
Never really worked itself out.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, it's funny going back to the Spurs final series. I went to game 5 that year. I had a buddy of mine who was a diehard, huge New Jersey Nets fan, still is. But we went probably, I went to like maybe 3 or 4 playoff games that year with him. And we actually camped out overnight to get tickets to go to the NBA finals.
Now, those were
And
the days.
yeah, yeah. Going from the Parkway to the Turnpike in 45 minutes at like 11:30 at night to stay overnight. Yeah, that doesn't
Yeah,
happen.
not
Um,
anymore. Not with all
no,
these ticket agencies. Not
yeah, you're
anymore.
not kidding. So I go to game 5 and actually still have, it's not, you can't see it, but I still have the towel hanging up here. And I tell my kids about it now, and they're just like, "You went to the NBA finals?" I'm like, "Yeah, like it's one of those like bucket list things. You ended up going." And I tell them now because they're at that age where they want to, kind of experience things and do things now. And it's just so much fun to kind of see them light up when I tell them stories. To
Sure.
me, that's everything for me.
And it was also a hell of a lot more affordable back then. I
Oh,
mean,
you're not kidding. I wish I knew
let's
how much I paid for that ticket, Jerry. I really do, and I don't
it's
remember.
and now, I mean, you're talking, forget, I'm not even gonna sit here and say family of four anymore, because that's kind of
Right,
gone
of
by the wayside. To
course.
buy two tickets to these things has just become absurd. And it's
Oh,
not
crazy.
even, and then you don't even get good games sometimes. I don't
No,
know. It's I don't know what direction or where it stops, because at some point it's going to stop. I don't know when and how, but it's just, everything is so off the rails right now. It's crazy.
I think for me anyway, like especially like football, I'd rather watch the game home. I'd rather
I agree
be,
with that. I
yeah,
agree.
I'd
It's
rather
a
be in front of my television doing what I'm doing, and then I can kind of have all the things that I want. Like I love to cook, so I'm making food for everybody. I have my boys who are so into the football, and it's like Sundays at our house is just fun. It's just a lot
Yep.
of fun, and then honestly, I want them to experience the football game, but also I'd rather just have them home with me. So it's like one of the like it's like a catch 22.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I agree with you. Football is the TV home sport. Hockey is the live sport, which is
Yes.
nothing better.
Yes.
Baseball to me is the comfort sport. It's there every night. And
Agreed.
then you got basketball that is nothing more than a playoff sport at this point. The regular
Yeah, you're
season
right.
is a complete and utter waste of time.
Oh, you're
Um,
totally right. I mean, like
and it's awful to watch.
I agree. I mean, and listen, I think a lot of it is the way the game is played now. It's too much three pointer, layup,
Yeah.
layup. There's no real intricacy. And that's why I kind of want to bring this to now, like what you do now with Rutgers. Okay.
Yeah.
The college game for me is so much more fun to watch, especially with me having young children that all play basketball. And also
Mm.
I coach basketball for my boys and I did for my daughter when she was, middle school age. But they get more out of it by watching, to me, the college game and even the high school game of how it's played. What's your feeling on that?
Well, it is. I mean, the college game has become, hoist and chuck, and there's a lot of threes that are shot in the college game, more
Right.
than I would like to see personally. But I also understand why it's done and why every team does it. The ones that do it well, it's pretty to watch. The ones that don't, not so pretty to watch. The difference between the college game though and the NBA game though is the effort level and the defensive intensity for the most part. There are some teams that just want to run up and down the floor and don't play great defense. But I'm living in the Big Ten with Rutgers, and these teams defend, and these teams play hard, and these teams basically gut their way through 40 minutes. I know all these conferences are really good. Whether it's the ACC, the SEC, the PAC, whatever the hell it is now
Yeah.
or was.
Whatever.
But I will tell you, and the Big 12,
Yeah.
there has not been in my time of calling games where I've seen top to bottom, the effort level. Like there is never an off night in this stupid league ever.
Yeah.
Maybe a team's Penn State's having a bad year. All right, fine. They come into the Jersey Mike's Arena and get slaughtered. That's fine. But when you go there, they expect to win, and they play at a different level. It's just yeah, it's college basketball is different for sure, and I think it's the way it's supposed to be played in terms of the energy and the effort.
Totally agree. I totally agree. And listen, those are the things you can control. You control your effort and how you play. All the other variables, it happens. You know what I mean? You're going to miss shots. You're going to make a bad pass. But if you understand the game the way, to me, the college level kind of shows you at its purest form, especially like you were saying, the Big Ten. There's a reason why all those Big Ten teams, when it comes tournament time, they're battle tested, they're ready to go, and a lot of these other finesse teams, to me, struggle. Like look at Arizona last year. To me, they were the biggest frauds in the tournament the entire season. They didn't have a chance. I'm sorry. Like they ran into a couple of teams where I'm like, there's no way they're not getting past these teams.
The only counter to that would be, and I've seen this enough, I also think the Big Ten beats the crap out of each other to where they're a little worn down come March. And
Yeah,
that Big Ten tournament's a big deal. Then you go to the NCAA tournament, and we've seen it where really good teams have not had big runs because I just think they're shot by
right.
the end because it is a grind of a season.
I don't know how you do it, by the way. I don't know how you go into these games and do whatever you need to do, then come on like an hour and a half of sleep and then show up and work your shift and do what you're doing and still keep that energy. To me, that's amazing. I'm
Well,
sorry.
I mean, for one, as I'll go back to how we kind of started this, we ain't working for a living. That's number one.
Yeah,
I think it's more of a commitment, and you've got to be there when you say you're going to be there, and they're paying you to be there.
right,
So that's first. Second, I will tell you, it's gotten harder, and I don't do it as much. When I first
right,
got the job, I remember Mark Chernoff approved me doing the Rutgers basketball games on the with the notion that I could charter with the team, which they allow me to do, and that we're coming back after games, and I could be there at 6 o'clock in the morning, and of course now it's 5 o'clock in the morning. When I first started doing that, I didn't do that with Columbia. There was no chartering; everything was driving, and if I couldn't make a shift, I'd either not do the game or I couldn't make a shift. And most of their games are on the weekends anyway, so I never had an issue for
right.
the 10 years or 11 years I did at Columbia. This years 1 through like 5 or 6, I would say, I don't know if it's adrenaline that kicks in. I don't know what it is, but you get a rush from, being in Ann Arbor and, you're sitting on a team bus after a game at 10 p.m., knowing that you're on the air in like 6, 7 hours
Right.
in New York City. And then when you walk into that building, it's like, my God, I was just in Michigan, 4 hours ago, and here I am working. And it was neat. As I've gotten a little bit older, it is not easy. And I don't really enjoy it any longer. So
Right.
if you will notice, last year it started, and this year I will carry over into taking days off after certain games. There are some I'm
Right.
going to have to work. but I ain't doing it every time. I just can't physically do it anymore.
Yeah, and plus now the Big Ten is the entire country. I mean, how
Yeah.
you're going to the West Coast now. You got to play the
Yeah.
UCLAs, you got to play the USCs and so on and so forth. So yeah, listen, I I commend you for your
Well,
commitment. Yeah, and seriously, like I commend you because you know what, a lot of people wouldn't do it. They'd look for other ways out. The fact that you've put that work and effort in kind of ties into what the core values that I believe in, and for that, I think that's very, very commendable.
well, thank you, but like I said, it's a hell of a lot more fun than it is work. But thank
I
you.
get it. So I wanna ask you something about this. Something I was curious to talk about, and that is you're a coach.
Yeah.
And you're a baseball coach, from what I understand, correct?
Yep.
So here's my question. Listen, as a coach as well, we all kind of deal with certain things that a coach kind of sees. Like maybe player development, maybe just some other outside issues that maybe some things kind of occur. With you being who you are and having the name notoriety that you do have, does that affect things? Does your children kind of see that kind of side of it? Do parents or other people kind of go, okay, well, that's Jerry Recco's kid?
Um, no, I don't know. I mean, I've been doing this for 15 years. And when I started with my older son, back in, 2009, I believe, was my first year. I did the one season of T-ball with him, but then quickly went to coach pitch. They had a program in town where it's 2 years of T-ball. We skipped the first. I wasn't doing
Yeah,
that twice.
yeah, I hear you.
Um,
I'm the
but,
same way with my 6-year-old's the same way. I understand completely.
yeah, they want to hit the ball. They want a guy pitching to him. But I thought it was good because he was looking forward to playing, so we did it. And I would say at that point, what's different then to now is I really was a radio voice at that point. Wasn't really on TV very often. Yeah, with Mike and the Mad Dog on, yes, once in a while doing the
Right.
updates, but not much. When it changed would have been in 2000, the end of eight. No, I'm sorry, nine. I started with Boomer and Carton, but there was no TV. Probably in 2000, I think 11 is when MSG joined us.
Okay.
And at that point, um, that's when the quote unquote notoriety would start from time to time, but not much. It was more when we were probably a few years into Boomer and Carton and when I started coaching my younger son, who's now 14,
Right.
I started coaching him in 2000, I guess it was 15 or 16, I forget, same type of
Yeah.
timeline.
Yep.
At that point, Boomer and Carton was well established. And I had been established in that role for 5 or 6, 7 years now, too. That's when things definitely did change. Now, did the moms? No, no. The moms didn't care who I was. Just take care of my kid and do a good
Sure.
job coaching them. Some of the
Yep.
some of the guys for sure knew, not all of them. But what was interesting, I'll give you one quick story about that quote unquote notoriety and when you deal with
Right.
other parents or coaches. So I was always the head coach until the last couple of years, where my younger son's team at 12, we didn't do Cooperstown, we did Ripken Myrtle Beach. That was our big trip, and we were done at the end of our 12U summer year. So that was great. If you go back to, I guess 10U, so I guess 4 years ago now, we were playing a team. I won't say who they were, but a team from, I think it was north of Trenton, so kind of far out there. And you wouldn't think that
Well, it's
anybody's
kind of by me, to be honest. Yeah, it's
yeah,
like, yeah. Yep.
sure. They
Yep.
might have even been from there. I'm not even sure.
Right.
But they were north of Trenton. That's the one thing I do remember.
Okay.
And head coach comes over beforehand to say hello, watches the show. He could not have been a nicer guy. I mean, it was just, you guys are great every day on TV. We start, my son watches you. Do you mind taking a photo with him? I'm like, sure. After the game now? Yeah, we'll do it after the game. Great. The first pitch is thrown, and this guy turned into a raving lunatic to where he got thrown out
Wow.
for berating the umpire, never got the picture with his kid, and he waited for me in the parking lot to apologize profusely so that I would not mention him or his team for what happened on the show Monday. He said it was out of character for him and all of this stuff. Point is, when the first pitch gets thrown, I don't know what these guys think. It's
I don't
as
know
if
either.
someone's scouting them, and they lose their minds and
Yeah.
they act like animals. And
I agree. Listen, I see it now.
it
I
happens.
mean, we both see it. You see how the game changes, and if this is just, I guess, my opinion. I feel, especially at like the lower levels, like the 7, 8, 9, 10, like elementary levels. I think it's more development than it is winning. but you can't really kind of portray that to the parents because for some reason they just get so obsessed with winning
Some
that,
do.
yeah, that to me, it's really more about development in that stage. But yes, winning is important because there's learning from it and there's learning from losing. So I think that all kind of ties together. But once the middle school level hits the 12, the 13, the 14, I do think winning's important, but you don't act like a jerk.
Yeah,
Like be respectful.
the problem with the winning's important thing, and this is different from when we were kids. This is not 30 kids go try out, 12 make the team, and there's no fees involved other than maybe $30 for the uniform. It has become
Oh
pay
yeah.
to play. And we're not talking $100 or $200. You're talking in some cases $6,000 and $7,000 to be
Yeah.
put on one of these quote unquote club teams. And I don't know, like for instance, if I'm running a team now and I take 12 kids and I'm running my own program and I'm charging each kid $7,000 for the year, and that includes the winter training and the spring ball and the summer ball and maybe even a tournament in the fall, whatever. Let's say it's a calendar year for $7,000, and my quote unquote club team is taking in $84,000. Clearly I'm making money, and little Johnny stinks, but we took him on. How do you not play him when his parents just shelled out $7,000? It's and that's what these club teams in a lot of cases are turning into.
I totally agree. And listen, I see it firsthand now with my children. There's been instances, and I'm not going to say who or what or whatever, but to your point, that happens a lot, and to justify charging somebody that kind of money and then have them just sit there and not play or do anything with
Not
them.
right. It's not
Yeah,
right.
it's not okay. I agree. I totally agree. Like if you're going to do it to a place where you're going to have a certain amount of kids that's going to get equal playing time and are going to learn and develop together. And if you do it that way, I think it works. But then if you're just doing it to try and make money or doing anything like that, like that's the stuff that I know my wife and I both try to stay away from.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of cash grabs out there, and I understand they're running businesses, and if parents are going to pay,
Right.
why wouldn't you do it? I'm not saying it's bad business; it's good business, but it's also you're really not playing to win in some cases.
Yeah, you brought up the Ripken experience. So I've never been to Ripken. I've passed it, but I've never been there. How was that experience for you?
So, are you talking about the one on 95 in Aberdeen, Maryland?
Yes, sir.
All right, so phenomenal. So that was my first experience with Ripken. I was talking about Myrtle Beach Ripken, which is I'll
Oh,
get
I
to that
never,
in a second.
I don't know much about that one.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you about that in a second. But Maryland, so we were supposed to go. My team was supposed to go when we were 11, and we had a COVID outbreak, and we wound up canceling. But I was lucky enough. My son had a little bit of a reputation that he could hit, and he certainly can hit the ball. Where one of the surrounding town teams went there, and they needed a kid to come play, pitch, hit, and so we actually went there as strangers on this team, and I was blown away the first time we pulled into the place. It is like baseball heaven.
Really?
If you love, it's just phenomenal. We then went with my Hawks team. We went there spring of our 12U year and experienced it as a group. They carried over the money and had a wonderful time. I've since done it a couple of times with this new team that he is now on after my team disbanded a little bit. We've done it on the 60-90 field where you get to play.
Wow.
Yeah, it's cool because they've got the 60. They probably have in Maryland, I would say 9 or 10 fields that it can go from 46-60 to 50-70. And then they've got one big 60-90 field that they just built out a couple of years ago. So that's brand new. And on top of that, when their minor league team isn't in town, they use that for the playoffs. So we've had that experience as well.
That's really cool.
It is, and it is worth every penny. And if you get to stay in the hotel that looks like Camden Yards,
The warehouse, yes. Yeah, I've
yes,
seen it from the roof.
we've done that a few times too, and that makes the experience even better. And then there's, like I said, I did not take my team to Cooperstown because of we were, I would say an average to a little bit above average town travel team.
Okay.
And I did not, from the horror stories about losing games 50-1 and 60-0 in Cooperstown,
Right.
And also having gone there with my cousins out in California on a nationally ranked team and seeing them pummel teams,
Right.
I didn't think it was the right fit for us. So we chose to do. I looked into a lot. I decided Ripken, Myrtle Beach to make it a baseball trip as like our big goodbye and our grand finale. And I will tell you, as blown away as I was in Aberdeen, that was just off the charts. So
Really?
Yeah,
That's really cool.
it is, but because now all of a sudden, you're a team from the Northeast, and all of a sudden you're playing on these beautiful turf fields, like in Aberdeen, but these beautiful turf fields with palm trees everywhere. It's wide open. It's just hell of an experience. Really was great.
Well, listen, I'm going to bring that back to the teams that, I'm thankful that my kids are on, and hopefully we can make that happen. So I really
Yep.
appreciate the feedback, really. I wanted to talk about the event you're having on August 19th. Okay. It's for your friend Scott Goldsberry. I know
Yep.
he's struggling a little bit, and that's kind of how we connected. So I wanted to kind of give you the floor and kind of just, allow you to kind of speak to that event.
So Scott Goldsberry is someone, ironically enough, that I met through the baseball complex when my older son was 9 or 10 years old. I want to say Scott's more of a football guy, but at the time he was running the baseball program in town, so I got to know him relatively well. We did lose touch for sure after his kids got older and my kids went in a different direction. But he's in town, and I used to talk to him all the time. And obviously, when I found out that he was diagnosed with ALS a couple of months ago, blown away by it and just saddened by it too, because it's a really horrible disease. His brother-in-law is his wife's brother-in-law is the one that reached out to me. Never met him, and I said to him, what can I do? I mean, I want to help, and it was my suggestion to do a golf tournament because I see how successful they are,
Yeah.
and they can raise a good amount of money. And so myself and his brother-in-law Craig, we just kind of went into it head first. And I'll tell you, Craig has been unreal. To me, I thought if we could get, let's say 84 golfers and they pay a good rate and maybe we get some prizes to raffle off, do a 50-50, then maybe we might be able to raise like $10,000-$12,000. And Craig thought that was awesome. Well, Craig took it to another level by going out and he found 5 or 6 like nice sponsors to where it's going to blow the theory of me thinking we can raise 12 or 13 grand. We might triple it, I think.
Oh, that's so great, man. That's so
hopefully
awesome.
And he deserves so much credit because he has busted his ass in
Right.
terms of getting those donors and sponsors. But that said, I'm going to be there every step of the way with him, and we are going to try and put on a great event on August 19th. I believe the golf is sold out already.
Yeah.
And I think the whole sponsors, if not are sold out, they're close to sold out. So it should be a great day for a great guy, and we'll help out as best we can.
My wife and I are actually going to attend the dinner that night. So I wanted to, kind of throw that out there. We wanted to kind of show our support, especially for him. Yeah, and for for everything that you're doing. I think again, it's commendable. And I think somebody, to kind of show their appreciation and their care for somebody in need is outstanding to me. So I think you're doing one heck of a job, really. So that's
I appreciate
awesome.
that, and I look forward to meeting you in person. Then that'll be awesome.
Oh, definitely. No. Listen, you get to meet my better half, which is probably more important. So
right. Aren't they always our better half?
Aren't they? As we're winding down here, I just kind of wanted to touch base about your fandom of the Cowboys. Now, I'm a Giant fan, and I know that Danny White is your favorite player.
No,
and you've gotten a chance to kind of interact with him. How is that with you?
So great. Danny is not my favorite player.
I'm sorry.
Him. That's
I
okay.
thought he was. Yeah.
No, I mean he was the quarterback of the Cowboys when I was growing up, and I loved him. Ironically enough, my favorite Cowboy of all time. I'll give you 2 guesses. Let's see if you can get close.
I got the first one because I think I know it now that my brain. Is it Jason Witten?
No.
All right, that's wrong. Okay. Let me think.
I don't think you'll get it.
Hold on. I'm gonna try. 7. All right. So maybe I'll throw like a random Cowboy out there and see if it works. Alvin Harper.
That's a good one, but no. It's I love Troy Aikman. I loved Emmitt Smith, Jay Novacek, Jason Witten, all of them. The big John Dutton back in the day, Harvey Martin, Jim Jeffcoat from Mattawan a few
yes,
towns
he is.
over.
Yeah.
Loved all of those guys. Ed Too Tall Jones, Billy Bates. My favorite, and this goes back to what we were talking about with effort and energy with the college basketball, has nothing to do with why you might think I'm going to say him. Herschel Walker.
Oh my goodness, really?
He wasn't there a long time. But Herschel Walker, in the years that he was there, they were not a good football team. They weren't terrible. They weren't good. That dude busted his ass on every single play, and I just loved watching him. I think he had the 1 year he ran for, I don't even know, was it 1,800 yards and
Right.
500 yards receiving on a bad football team. I just, yeah, it's weird. And people look at me like, oh, because the Vikings trade. No, that is not why. It was when he was with
Wow.
when he was with the Cowboys. I just loved watching him. Danny White was one of my favorites too. Not my favorite, but one of my
Right.
favorites as
Right.
well. And to answer your question, working with him, um, odd. I mean, really, really odd. It's one thing when you sit in a studio. Sometimes I would do games from Manhattan during the pandemic and after. I've done most of the pre and post game stuff from my basement studio that you're kind of looking at now.
Yeah.
But when I first got the call to actually do a Cowboys game and then go to Dallas and do the game with Danny, I was blown away. It was one of those experiences. You figure I did 11 years of Columbia football. I had done
Yeah.
a handful of games on TV. I had done 10 or 11 years of Columbia basketball, 4 or 5 years Big Ten basketball with Rutgers. I will tell you, I got on the plane to go out to Dallas to call my first Cowboys game. And I did, oh, by the way, Patriots Bills for Compass Media Networks the year
Okay.
prior. So it's not like I hadn't done an NFL game.
Right.
It was as if this isn't real. And walking into the stadium, like this, it was weird. And then meeting him, very nice guy. I showed him a picture of me as him for Halloween when I was 10.
Oh, that's awesome.
Which I think it was his son was there for that game. I think his son was tickled more than he was. I think he thought I was a bit odd. But a really nice guy. Enjoyed working with him. I think I called 7 games with him over the last 4 years, last 3 years, something like that. So,
Right.
Yeah, just kind of cool to work with a guy that you grew up watching. Kind of like Bob Dwyer is a guy that worked for us with Boomer and Carton.
Yeah, I remember Bob. Yeah.
Bob grew up a huge Bengals fan. So when he got the job to work on the Boomer and Carton show, it was like, damn, this is pretty cool.
Right.
And it was the same experience for me with Danny.
That's all. Have you ever gotten a chance to meet Herschel Walker and talk to him?
I have. He was in studio with Boomer and Carton somewhere around 2011 or 12, maybe 2009 or 10, somewhere around there.
Right.
I have taken, Al Dukes will tell you, over the years, we've had a lot of people in. I've taken, not when I'm hosting, because when we host,
Right.
we take photos for social. I've only requested 2 photos in all my years. Kevin James, and that's because my son was watching Paul Blart
All Cop movie, yeah.
Yeah, like he literally just watched it the week prior. It's like, I got to get this picture. But the other one is Herschel Walker. They're the only 2 I've ever asked for a picture with.
That's unbelievable. That's really cool.
I give you a very quick backstory to that one. So
Okay.
They knew how much I loved Herschel Walker. Craig, being Craig, though, had the idea to have Bob Dwyer, I think it was Bob, maybe it wasn't, I think it was, put a tape recorder in the newsroom the morning Herschel Walker was coming in to see if Bob could get me to say anything negative about him or say something so over the top that they would play that, that oral sex drop that they like to play.
Yeah, Eddie, Eddie with all the drops. Yeah.
Exactly. And ultimately, I just talk glowingly about him. I had nothing bad to say. But yes, that was the funny part of that. As they say, well, Herschel, we have some special sound for you from this morning. Our buddy, I'm like, I'm listening to this in the newsroom. I'm like, what the hell is he talking about? And then I hear the recording from like 2 hours. I'm like, you sons of bitches, that's not right. But it was funny. It was funny.
Oh, listen, Jerry, I can't thank you enough for your time, the way that you've given me pretty much everything. And I'm humbled. I don't even know what else to say to you. Like, thank you so much for this. It's been
the pleasure is mine. I promise you.
No,
I appreciate you asking.
It's unbelievable. I'm so excited. I'm so honored and so thrilled to have you as my very first guest. This was awesome. This was everything you could ask for and more. So again, August 19th. Yeah, please. And
I appreciate it. And good luck with this. This sounds fun.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. I really appreciate that too. And listen, you're a friend of the show now. So anytime you want to come on, you're more than welcome. Shoot me an email and we'll definitely discuss anything you want.
You got it. Very much appreciated. I look forward to meeting you on the 19th.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, guys, we're back here on the All Around. How cool is Jerry Recco? I mean, seriously, how cool is that man? For him to sight unseen, just be so generous with his time and be just so gracious with me. And I can't even put into words how much that means to me and to the show and everything that we're trying to accomplish here on the program. And it's amazing. It truly is amazing. I can't thank him enough. I'm hoping he'll come back on, and we'll see where it goes. So I want to take this part of the show to kind of, wrap around some topics that are, I want to talk about, just give some thoughts, voices, and opinions on. Also, you can check me out at Instagram at JM14 all around pod. Please follow me there. Also, the YouTube channel, check that out there. And we are on Podbean. Okay, the show will be featured exclusively on Podbean. I am working on some other things to do with other subscriptions. So just stay tuned for that when we get there in the coming, days, weeks, and months. So without further ado, I want to talk about a few things. First thing I want to talk about is the Mets, obviously. I mean, I'm a super diehard Met fan, always have been, always will be, and I live and die with this team. Regardless of, their record, if they're good, if they're bad, I'm into every single game. I'm into every pitch. They're my team. Like everybody has their one team, and the Mets to me is that team. Now, granted, I'm also a Giants fan in football. I'm also a very diehard Knicks fan in basketball, always have been. And I root for the New York Rangers in hockey. So I do go through the seasons and I do get passionate about all four of the teams that I root for. But for some reason, the Mets are like that number one, Everybody has that number one team that regardless of whatever fandom you have, that's just the team you're just so emotional about. The Mets are my team. Now, they're in a good run. They're in a good run right now. I mean, they're, at the 500 mark. I mean, you're talking 3 or 4 weeks ago, they were 11 games under 500. And it just seemed like doom and gloom. And listen, I'm not going to go with the grimace stuff. That's all cute or whatever. And, it's a topic, but okay, whatever. Grimace throughout the first pitch. I don't think there's any correlation to them starting to take off and then Grimace for some reason being a part of it. But hey, if people want to believe that and it just gets some steam behind the team, fine. The OMG song that Iglesias put out, I do think there's a good reason that kind of brought the team together. If you see the videos and you kind of watch them all kind of interact with each other, that's a team building thing. And I think that has a very positive impact on this team. Also, I just love how they're competing now. They're not out of any games anymore. Like when they were going through a rough stretch, like if they were down 2 or 3 runs, the game was over. And let's not forget something about that bad stretch they had. There was maybe, just off the top of my head, 6 or 7 of those games that were easily winnable that either the bullpen blew or just one mistake here, one mistake there cost them a game. And it really put them in a bad spot. I love how Carlos Mendoza manages this team. From everything you read and hear, this guy is an unbelievable communicator, which I love. You know what? In business or just in general, like when you're a leader and you're somebody who is in that position, you need to know how to communicate with everybody, not just 1 or 2 people. You need to know how to communicate with, in this case, 26 other people, the front office, ownership, however it is you need to communicate, and not be afraid to tell people that, you know what? You need to be better. I think we go through this, especially at like the youth sports level, where, yeah, you want to try to, encourage and coach and teach people fundamentals, but attitude is a real thing. And if you can control your attitude, a lot of the other things kind of fall into place. I always discuss this with my kids about their attitude, like things you can control: your body language, your attitude, and your effort. If you can control those 3 things, I think you can be very teachable in teaching all the other fundamental things you need to know to be great. And to me, that's a life lesson. And part of this, again, is like having those life lessons through sports that, are very, very important to me, and I know very important to a lot of people out there. But to get back on the Mets, I love how Mendoza communicates. He has just a gift of knowing what to do and when to do it. Now with the Diaz thing, I kind of understand why he didn't react the way I feel probably should have reacted. It was all over his hands. Like it was so obvious that the guy was trying to do something he shouldn't have done. And to me, I think that's a confidence thing with Diaz. He seems like a very emotional guy. And if things aren't going his way, he really takes it to heart, which I respect. The guy is trying so hard out there to be the best. And listen, I don't condone doing what he did with all the stuff on his hands, but I understand why he did it. I get why he went down that road because of how he's been performing in the last, I would say, 7 to 10 games. And he's still coming back from a very major injury. And he now is starting to throw the ball hard. But before that, he wasn't hitting those 97, 98, 99, 100 mile an hour fastballs that he was accustomed to doing before the injury. So I get it. But Mendoza didn't come out and protect him. Now, I get it. There's probably nothing to protect, but at least just get out there and show a little, just some fire. Go back and forth with the umpire a little bit. And then you want to privately tell Diaz it was the wrong thing to do it. But don't then just, say, well, he broke the rules. Yes, we all know he broke the rules. We get that. But there's something to be said about having somebody's back. Now, I'm not saying he doesn't, but I'm saying that he didn't show it in the moment. And I'm not sure how that's going to kind of portray when Diaz does come back from his suspension. I guess we'll see, But at this point, they've climbed out of a hole that they dug themselves in. They're a 500 team. They're a game out of a wild card spot as of right now. I think that just keep winning series, just keep really trying to, build off of what you started. And if they do that, I mean, sky's the limit for them. I mean, I don't think they're going to win a championship. I hope they do, but I just realistically don't see it. But there's things to really take like solace in. The fact that Lindor is actually, performing like Francisco Lindor. The best thing he ever did was put him in a leadoff spot. He's a different player now. Severino's been fantastic. Everybody's kind of starting to come around a little bit. JD Martinez has been a godsend for this team. He has been fantastic. Not only producing in the 3 spot, but everything else that he's starting to contribute now with everybody else, the younger players, teaching them things that he knows. You hear all the reports from everybody, how just smart of a guy he is. And if that can really take that thing to the next level, sky's the limit for this team. But we'll see where it goes. Also, Hard Knocks is coming out with the Giants. That should be fun with Brian Daboll. My kids try to, affectionately call me Brian Daboll, bald, fat, white guy. Now I'm Brian Daboll. But, hey, I've called worse things in my life, so I'll take it. We'll see how that is. I'm curious to see kind of how that goes in the process of drafting Malik Neighbors and seeing how that all kind of came to be. So we'll watch it. We'll react to it and kind of see where it goes. NBA. Free agency starts, I believe, June 30th at 6 o'clock. And there's been some things happening. I mean, listen, as a Knicks fan, how do you not love Mikal Bridges? How do you not love that move? How do you not love the fact that they gave up? And I don't want to get all crazy about the draft picks because to me, draft picks, I mean, you never know with people like that. You never know what you're going to actually draft until they're actually in front of you. I'd rather have a guy that I know that can perform. And he just, in Bridges, he fits in seamlessly with that group. They re-signed OG Anunoby. Tremendous. Okay. Now you're starting to build that depth, Now that Thibodeau doesn't have an excuse now to play Brunson, Hart, DiVincenzo, whoever else, 40, 42 minutes a night. That's over. You can't do that anymore. You're going to have a team, hopefully, if they do re-sign Hartenstein, that's 9, 10 deep. Now, if that's the case and you can get production out of that second unit like you could your first, there's no reason why everybody should be playing 30 to 35 minutes a night and not 40, 42, 45. Now, granted, the playoffs, that's a totally different story. You put your best players out there, and they need to perform. So if they're going to play 40 minutes a night, whatever. During the regular season, in a game in November that, obviously does mean something, but don't treat it like it's Game 7 of the NBA Finals, man. I think that's Thibodeau's biggest knock. He's a great X's and O's guy. He is a great guy knowing how to, use his matchups to his, his best ability. But the problem is he wears guys out. And you can't do that. Not in today's NBA. Like, it's not like it used to be where guys were accustomed to playing those types of minutes. It's not like that anymore. We're in the era of load management. And regardless of whether we like it or not, that's what it is now. So you're going to have to adapt to that. And the Knicks did not do a good job of adapting to all of those different things. And it cost them, I think. And listen, injuries happen. You can't predict that Jalen Brunson's going to break his hand. You can't predict that, Josh Hart's going to strain a rib or do anything like that, or Anunoby getting hurt or anything. But I do think that the workload increase really did, have a factor in, especially Hart's injury and Anunoby's injury. I think Brunson's injury is a freak thing. People break their hands all the time. So I'm about as giddy and about as excited as a Knicks fan that I've been since I was, 13, 14 years old in the 90s with Ewing and Starks and Oakley and all them, where I feel like they actually have a legitimate chance to win a championship. I mean, to me, that's the goal, right? You want to win a championship. They're as close now as they've ever been. And you can see with the moves that they're making, they're trying to match up with Boston. Now you can. Now you have Bridges and Anunoby that can guard Brown and Tatum. I don't think any other tandem in the league has that. You have a Brunson that is just so dynamic and does things so differently that he's impossible to guard. And we'll see where Randall is. I don't think Randall fits. I never thought Randall fits. But from everything that you read and hear, he's not going anywhere. So they're going to have to make it work. And if he's willing to take a lesser role and kind of fit into what they've accomplished without him, then he can be a dynamic piece. If I was Thibodeau, I'd have him come off the bench. I'd have him be that star of the second unit where he can still kind of get his points in that late first quarter, early second quarter minutes, or even like that late third quarter, early fourth quarter minutes when you notice the stars kind of come off the floor, they get their breathers. Having Randall in that mode and having him in those minutes where he can be the prominent player on offense, I think can go a long way because, listen, Randall's a prolific scorer. He's a okay rebounder. And you know what? He does, when he's engaged, has really good court vision. But the problem is he's a liability defensively. Always has been, always will be. And then in crucial moments, he makes horrible decisions. In the playoffs 2 years ago, I'd always tease like my friends and everything about fourth quarter Randall. And fourth quarter Randall was, I don't know what I'm doing. My hair is on fire, and I'm going to make every bad decision possible for this team to lose a game. So if he can get away from that and maybe take that, 6-man role, I think he could be a unstoppable force in that role. And that just gives the Knicks a leg up, when you have, like the second units on the floor. When you have a guy like Julius Randle, who's an all-NBA player, playing with the second unit and being the primary factor, it's going to be hard to stop. But those decisions are for Thibodeau and the rest of the team, so we'll see where that goes. And I have to just comment on this real quick about the Lakers. Now, truth be told, I'm a LeBron guy. I like LeBron James, the basketball player. I think, in his prime, he was the most dominant basketball player I've ever seen in my life. Top to bottom, all around, he was absolutely incredible at his peak for what he can do and how he did it. His basketball IQ, the way he played defense, and he literally can do anything on the court that you needed to win a basketball game and do it at a very, very, very high level. So that LeBron, I admire. What I don't admire is the owner, coach, general manager, player agent LeBron, who now I think basically just tanked the Lakers franchise for the next 5 to 10 years. You hire a guy in JJ Redick that, one, is your friend that does a podcast with you, who's never had any coaching experience in his life. Okay, maybe just, some youth sports with his kids, and that's fine. But you're talking about professional athletes that get paid tens of millions of dollars. Now, all of a sudden, you're going to be in that room and be their leader. It's not going to work. It's just not going to work. It didn't work with Nash in Brooklyn. It's not going to work here with LeBron. He's too much of a dominant force, okay? And then you're going to manipulate the draft so you can play with your son. Now, granted, that's an amazing accomplishment that your son is good enough to be drafted by an NBA team. As a father, if my kids were ever in that position, I don't even know how I would react. But to have your agent go out there that, of course, is his son's agent and talk and tell teams that he's going to Australia or he's going to do this, don't draft him, and to try to manipulate things like that. No, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I just think that's just so underneath him that he shouldn't have done it. And then you see all the videos, they're celebrating doing this. And listen, celebrate the fact that your child had, lived out a childhood dream, not because daddy manipulated the system. We're going to talk about a lot of that because that kind of goes into detail with, some of the things I want to address on the show with certain people, coaches, whatever, especially at the youth level, because you see a lot of that. And to me, like, what are we doing when we're, I get it, you want to give people opportunities, but what happens when those opportunities, don't happen when they're older? They don't understand how it is to work for something when everything was handed to them at a young age. To me, that, like, you're not teaching people anything. All you're doing is giving an expectation to a child or a young person that, oh, okay, somebody's just going to hand me an opportunity. No, it doesn't work like that. You grind. You put in the work. You do the things possible to make your dreams come true. I'm a firm believer in that. I mean, I'm here right now because of this. This has been a dream. This has been something that I wanted to do for a very, very, very long time. And if my wife didn't push me to do this, I probably wouldn't have done it. But now I'm living out my dream. I'm living out something that, if this goes somewhere that I hope it does, is an accomplishment that I can't even put into words. And it's something that I'm really striving for and I'm working hard at. I'm putting in the work. I'm doing the hours. I'm doing all the things to be successful. That's how you become successful, by getting an idea, working hard at what you're trying to accomplish, and then just putting that work, that time, that effort in, and never, ever, ever, ever giving up. And that's what the All Around Sports Podcast is going to be about. We're never, ever going to give up. The All Around Army. That's who we are. That is a statement. That is a core value. And we're going to do this the right way. So, all right. We're going to wrap up now. We're going to talk about our sponsors one more time. And also, I'm happy to announce episode 2. Okay, when episode 2 drops, it's going to drop, thinking Friday, July 5th is going to drop episode 2. We have Pete Hoffman on the show, okay? Pete Hoffman, the producer of the BT and Sal midday show on WFAN from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Monday through Friday. He is also the co-host, okay, and producer of the Rico Bronya podcast with Evan Roberts. Find that wherever you get your podcasts. He's an unbelievable guy. I can't wait to, for everybody to hear, what we were talking about and everything. It was such a great, great, great time. Also, my co-host, we're going to introduce my nephew. I affectionately call him my nephew, Nick Rosselli. He's going to be on the show next, on the next episode. So stay tuned for that. So I want to tell you one more time about Jump Shot Gym. It's a one-of-a-kind basketball training facility located in Hillsborough, New Jersey. We have 8 hoops and the Dr. Dish shooting machines. Please get the reps you need to build a consistent jump shot. Visit jumpshotgym.com. Again, jumpshotgym.com, okay? For all the information you need on shooting clinics, camps, and parties. Again, I absolutely love this place. I've taken my children there. They've gotten all the reps that they've needed to get themselves better and better and better. And please, you'll be very happy to, get over there and check those guys out. They're unbelievable people. Okay. Also, Brazina Home Improvements. All right. I want to tell you one more time about Brazina Home Improvements. Okay. If you're looking for any general contractor or repair need, contact Brazina Home Improvements, 609-581-5848 for any contracting or repairs for your home or business. They offer free estimates. Again, contact 609-581-5848. This has been awesome. It's the start of a new beginning. We're going to have so much fun with this. And again, I can't thank all of you enough for listening to me. All right, follow me on Instagram, JM14 All Around Pod. Check out the YouTube channel. Check us out on Podbean. Like, share, subscribe, and follow. We'll see you next time.